Today I wanted to talk about the Murderbot Diaries series of books written by Martha Wells. I'm talking about all of the books in the series in one video because the individual books are pretty short, which is my first point of critique. The books are very short indeed. You can read one of those books in like 2 hours depending on your reading speed. Now, I have nothing against short books in principle, but they are priced at almost $10, like $8 to $10. And I think a book you can read in 2 hours should be more around $5. So I think the author is making a very good profit of these books. Anyway, let's discuss the actual content of the books. Are they worth reading? Spoiler alert, I think they are. So, there are 5 books in the main series: All Systems Red, Artificial Condition, Rogue Protocol, Exit Strategy, and Network Effect. And the last release was a standalone novel with the same characters but not connected to the main plot, which is Fugitive Telemetry. Now, what I really like about these books is the protagonist, the main character, and the viewpoint character. It's written in first person, and the main character is a sec unit, a security unit, which is some kind of mishmash of a robot and cloned human parts to make something that is much more capable than a common drone or bot. And in this dystopian future, where large parts of the galaxy are run by giant corporations, these sec units are rented out to provide security for mining operations or planetary surveys. And their main function is to keep their customers alive. Now, the main protagonist has hacked itself, has hacked its own so-called governor module, meaning that it does not have to follow orders anymore. At the beginning of book 1, it still is though, because after doing that hacking, it didn't know what to do with itself, so it just kept working in this dead-end job. But now in its free time, it's consuming dangerous amounts of media, of the future version of Netflix or something. And it's especially fond of soap operas. Now, over the many years of working as a sec unit, the main character has become a sarcastic asshole. The comments the protagonist is writing about his opinion on events, on other characters, is just hilarious to read. And in general, it's a very interesting perspective this Murderbot, this sec unit, gives us. Because it is not human, it has quite different and in some cases quite superior capabilities to human, but it is still human enough to relate to it. So it has feelings of fear, angst, depression. It's very shy, awkward in social situations, but somehow it is struggling through all of these shortcomings to do its job. Its job happens to be to save people, so many of its actions are quite heroic indeed. And the sec unit has a really low regard for personal safety, regularly jumping in the way of incoming danger to save its clients and later its friends. though Sec Unit would have a hard time admitting that they are its friends. This is just a really unique outside, but not quite outside perspective on the human condition as well. Imagine you have the actual capable character of a horror movie, the one who actually knows how to survive dangerous situations, which is usually the sarcastic asshole in these horror movies. Now imagine that character has gone through a series of 10 movies and had a lot, and every time the rest of the cast has done their level best to be super stupid and die in the most stupid ways possible. Imagine how you as an audience would scream at the screen for the character to stop being so stupid, but they are unable to hear you. That is Sec Unit, that is Murderbot. Stuck in 10 horror movies without being able to change what the other characters are doing. Somehow pulling through. Now this is a science fiction novel, but interesting enough, it's not focusing not much on technical concept like ship drives or weaponry, AI, doesn't really focus on how anything works. No, it's more focused on relationships between different characters and how the protagonist is feeling about this. This is the main focus of the plots. How Murderbot interacts with other human beings, even though it wouldn't admit that it's a human being, that it's a person actually. But me as a fan and writer of science fiction, I would have loved to have a little bit more detail. For example, in this universe there are two main types of firearms. One is described as energy weapons, and from its effect I guess it's some kind of laser. The other is called a projectile weapon, and from the effect of that weapon I suppose it's either a firearm or a railgun. I mean, it's not really important to the plot how any of that works. And since it is written from the perspective of the Sec Unit, who probably doesn't care, maybe doesn't even know how all of that stuff actually works. So having that character just categorize anything as projectile or energy weapons and be done with it is actually quite thematic and understandable. Also, the descriptions of all characters in the books are really brief. I don't have a good picture of how any of the characters look. Well, I imagine this is from the perspective of the Murderbot once again, and this is what the Sec Unit focuses on when it sees people, when it tries to remember people. So it's not focusing on how they look, but they are more focused on that person's role and how likely they are to get themselves or the other clients killed. So I have a really good understanding of the role and the competence of the characters, but not how they look. The first 5 novels of the main series have a plot that is running through all of them, but they are still standalone enough that you can jump in at any point and read each of it on its own. The last book I mentioned, Fugitive Telemetry, is completely standalone, not connected to the main plot. And really, there is not that much plot development, that much character development throughout the series. You can almost read it like a long-running pulp fiction series, like James Bond, Sherlock Holmes, Conan the Barbarian, where the main character stays pretty much the same throughout the series, but is thrown into different weird and wacky situations and is more like a vessel for the reader to experience the universe at large. Many of these stories are structured like a detective novel. A huge draw of these detective stories is that the detective is an outsider to the larger community, meaning that they can move through the different echelons of that community, talk to a lot of people of very different social standing, and show the world they're living in and the struggles of many different people living in this world. Also in these books there's usually some kind of crime or mystery to be solved throughout the story. So I for one really like this series of books. I've read it twice, which is a lot for me. Even stuff I really like I usually don't read that often, or watch that often for that matter. And I found them really inspirational. This unique perspective on the human condition is just such a unique and nice idea. There are a few other book series out there which have a similar topic, but this one's doing it pretty well, and having the protagonist be such a sarcastic asshole brings a lot of dry humor into the series. As I said, I found it really inspirational. So right now I'm in the planning stages to write a similar kind of story in my science fiction universe. We'll see how that turns out. So yeah, if you like science fiction with artificial life forms and detective stories and gritty cyberpunk themes, check out the Murderbot Diaries by Martha Wells. And if you like what I'm doing and want to support my channel, like the video down below, subscribe to my channel, and consider buying my book, False Prophet, on Amazon Kindle. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.